Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video from Decision Desk HQ. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today, looking ahead to the 2024 presidential election, and more specifically, the race to 270 electoral votes. Practically, the Electoral College map is as thin as ever, with these 6 states likely to determine the outcome of the election no matter the nominee. If you really wanted to be generous, you could expand it out a little bit more and include these states, but you'd be delving into races that definitely lean toward one party. Naturally, this narrow of a map is likely to be decided at the margins, and therefore it is pointless to speculate and/or make any meaningful predictions as to what will happen before we even have the first Republican primary contest. That being said, data can still be insightful regardless of its actual predictive value. Plus, it's fun to play around with. That's why in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at what the 2024 Electoral College map would look like if every state swung the same way as it did between 2016 and 2020. That is to say, if the exact same trend in each individual state continues into 2024, which party would have the edge in the all-important fight for 270 electoral votes? Let's take a look. Before we begin, the margins for classification purposes in this video will be as follows. Solid or safe states, the darkest shade, apply to 15% and above. Likely states fall between 8% and 15%. Lean states are between 2.5% and 8%, and then tilt states are between 0 and 2.5%. With that out of the way, let's start out with the states that voted for Joe Biden by more than 15 percentage points, and would even move several points further toward the Democratic column, except for Hawaii, California, New York, and Washington, D.C. Hawaii actually shifted nearly 3 points toward Trump between 2016 and 2020, the largest pro-Republican swing in the entire country. While Biden improved on Clinton's vote share by about a point in Hawaii, it was Trump who received a 4-point boost. Trump won more precincts than he did in 2016, and he won more raw votes in Hawaii than any Republican in history, narrowly beating George W. Bush's performance in 2004. New York, D.C., and California saw virtually no shift at all, but I will be paying close attention to the margin in the Empire State specifically after Democrats suffered a series of 2022 U.S. House defeats, as well as a closer than expected gubernatorial election. Now, notably for Democrats, both Colorado and Maine saw such a dramatic swing toward Democrats in 2020 that if it happened again, they would also vote for Biden by a margin of higher than 15%. Colorado established itself as a Democratic stronghold already in 2020 after shifting 8.5 points toward Biden and Democrats. While Maine has not voted for a Republican since 1988, and Trump coming within 3 points of Clinton in 2016 proved to be more of an anomaly, with Biden carrying the statewide 2 electoral votes by 9 points in 2020. Finally, Nebraska's Omaha-based 2nd Congressional District, New Mexico, Virginia, New Hampshire, and Minnesota all come close, but they all remain in the 10 to 15 point Democratic margin area. As for the states that voted for Donald Trump by more than 15 percentage points, the odds of any of these states shifting so far away from Republicans that Joe Biden actually may be competitive are basically zero. But notably, Nebraska, Montana, Indiana, and Missouri would all be removed from the 15-point and up column for the GOP. Trump won Nebraska by 19% in 2020, but it shifted a full 6 points to the left from 2016, where he won by 25%. Montana, Indiana, and Missouri were all right on the cut line, as Trump won them by 18 and 19% margins in 2016, and then lost about 3% of support in each of these states in 2020, winning by 15 and 16% margins respectively. So, if those 3-point swings were to continue into 2024, they would move into the likely Republican column. They're joined there by Kansas, South Carolina, Ohio, Iowa, and Alaska. Alaska is actually the most notable state here, as it shifted almost 5 points toward Biden, and Trump's 10-point margin of victory was the lowest in the state since 1968, except for the Ross Perot-influenced 1992 election. The states of Ohio and Iowa, on the other hand, solidified themselves as true Republican states by voting for Trump by the same margins they did in 2016. Only 6 states shifted in Trump's direction between 2016 and 2020, and out of the 44 that moved toward Biden, Ohio did the least. That leaves these 9 states still without a designation, plus Maine's 2nd congressional district. Joe Biden won Nevada by 2.39% in 2020, remarkably just 0.03% of a point below Clinton's margin of 2.42%. So, for the purposes of this video, Nevada's consistency puts them firmly in the tilt Democrat column. Arizona, on the other hand, went blue in 2020 for the first time since 1996, and for just the second time since Truman in 1948. Biden won by a margin of just 0.3% after Trump carried the state in 2016 by a full 3.5 points. Democrats have notably won the last presidential election, the last 3 Senate contests, and the governor's office all in the last 5 years. And if Arizona were to shift another 3.8 points toward Biden, he would win the state by more than 4 points, and thus it falls under the lean Democrat classification. In Texas, Democrats have been dreaming of flipping the state's 40 electoral votes and essentially turning the Electoral College map on its head. But even if the Lone Star State were to become 3.5 points bluer between 2020 and 2024, as it did between 2016 and 2020, Republicans would still hold on to a 2-point victory. Goes to show that Democrats have a lot more work to do to turn those dreams into reality. Moving right along, Georgia was the closest race in 2020. Biden carried its 16 electoral votes by just 0.2% and a raw total of 11,000 votes. Back in 2016, Trump defeated Clinton by over 5 percentage points, and its massive blue shift can be attributed largely to the rapid growth and diversification of Atlanta's suburbs, where Republicans were once so dominant, and Democrats managed to turn out a record number of voters. Another shift of that magnitude would put the Peach State firmly into lean Democrat territory. Now we arrive in Florida. Before the election, most polling averages had Biden in the lead in Florida by up to almost 3 percentage points. Despite this, Trump won the state by a 3.4-point margin, improving on his margin from 2016 over Hillary Clinton by 2.2 points, and it was the largest margin for any presidential election in Florida since 2004. The primary reason was increased support for Trump among Latino voters in the state, specifically in Miami-Dade County, which Biden carried by 7.4 points, significantly less than Clinton's 29.4-point margin in 2016 and Obama's 23.7-point margin in 2012. Because of these trends, along with Governor Ron DeSantis' 19-point victory and Senator Marco Rubio's 16-point victory in the 2022 midterm elections, Democrats will likely spend significantly less resources in Florida than they have in the past. Our first flip of this video comes in North Carolina, where Trump won by 1.3% in 2020. This was his narrowest victory in any state, and was a closer result than his 3.67% margin over Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Mitt Romney's 2.04% margin over Barack Obama in 2012. North Carolina's 2.3-point shift toward Biden was lower than the average shift nationwide, but another one like it in 2024 would put it in the tilt Democrat column. Moving to the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin have voted in tandem with each other since 1988, backing Democrats in every election except for 2016, when Trump carried each of them en route to victory. Biden managed to flip them back in 2020, winning Pennsylvania by 1.2%, Michigan by 2.8%, and Wisconsin by 0.6%. As such, Michigan and Pennsylvania would be in the lean Democratic column under the same trend, while Wisconsin remains tilted blue. Finally, Maine's 2nd Congressional District voted for Trump by 7.5 points in 2020, and although that is less than 3 points lower than his 2016 margin, it would remain in lean Republican territory. That leaves the Electoral College map at 319 electoral votes to Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, and 219 electoral votes to the winner of the Republican primary. The national landscape shifted several points towards Democrats between the 2016 and 2020 presidential elections, and if the exact same shift were to occur between 2020 and 2024, only the state of North Carolina would flip for Biden. Having said all of this, of course, it's important to recognize that while analyzing the past voting patterns and trends of each state can provide valuable insights into potential outcomes of future elections, relying solely on the shifts between 2016 and 2020 could be problematic for several reasons. Namely, the political and social landscapes are constantly changing, and it's difficult to predict exactly how they will evolve in the future. Factors such as shifting demographics, economic trends, and unforeseen events can all have a significant impact on voting patterns. Plus, voter behavior and sentiment can also fluctuate greatly between elections and across different groups of voters, who in 2016 expected Trump to lose re-election, yet make significant gains among Hispanic voters in Miami and the Rio Grande Valley, and who in 2019 would have predicted that Georgia would vote to the left of North Carolina and Florida. Ultimately, while fundamentals such as incumbency and economic conditions are of utmost predictive value, changes in voter preferences and attitudes towards candidates and issues do also have a significant impact on election outcomes. It should also be noted that while presidential incumbents have historically been more electorally formidable, the last two incumbents, Barack Obama and Donald Trump, both received a lower share of the vote running for re-election than they did when they were first elected. That's all from Decision Desk HQ though for today. Please make sure to like the video and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel down below and hit that notification bell so you never miss another upload as well. Check out more content from our channel here and we'll see you next time.